Let's talk about what's going on in your life today called Coal.
Okay.
It's produced by Marty Stewart. I read where this is a personal, autobiographical type of a album for you.
Well, yeah, I grew up in West Virginia,
Yes.
and both my grandfathers were coal miners, and my brother still works in the coal industry. And when the Sago mine disaster happened, it really kind of rocked my world. And you know, I just had a lot of emotion about it, and I decided at a certain point, I thought, I've been kind of making a short list of songs for years, and I thought, well, maybe now is the time to do this. Maybe that's a good thing to do with all this emotion that you're feeling.
The songs in the album, you've looked at other songwriters to choose from.
Yes. Yeah, I went through this sort of historical record, and I even listened to a lot of really older songs, but I was trying to make a record that would hang together as a good listen as well as not just be a historical kind of tribute thing. So it wound up being from Dark as a Dungeon, which was written in the 50s, all the way up to You'll Never Leave Heart Alive, which is in the 2000s. So we cover quite a bit of ground.
You had some good songwriters mixed up in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the songs. The LNN Don't Stop Here Anymore. I played that for years and years and years on the radio.
Well, as we speak here, I just got finished doing a workshop with Jean Ritchie, and I got to sing it with her. And yes, Johnny Cash made the song famous, and Michelle shocked. She said he recorded it after that. But it's interesting how a song evolves over time, and Jean got to do her version, which is a much more sort of harkens back to the Irish and Celtic roots of the thing. So it was very interesting to sort of show the audience how a song evolves.
I thought the LNN was an old-time bluegrass tune, boy, going back in the earlier days.
Well, Jean Ritchie wrote it first.
Oh, Ellen,
she
Jean
wrote
knows.
the tune.
All right, well, Jean Ritchie knows then. How about some of the other songs? Black Lung. You do a cappella?
Yeah.
Wow, that's not easy.
Well, it took me 6 months to learn to sing that song.
Right.
And Hazel Dickens wrote that tune about her brother who died of black lung, and it was not an easy process to watch. And then in the middle of it, you know, she also had to address sort of the ways that her brother didn't get help. He was not allowed on the medical plan, and then the employer came to the funeral as well. And those are the sorts of things that happened a lot in the coal fields. There was this sort of double-sided, this whole other culture going on underground while things looked just fine on the surface.
How about the Rolling Hills?
Green Rolling Hills of West Virginia.
Hills. Yep.
That's a Utah Phillips song, and Hazel and Alice recorded it and added another verse to it. So that's how Hazel Dickens' name got on the writing of that song. And,
how about you did that with Tim O'Brien and his
Tim
sister?
and Molly sang on it.
Yeah.
And that, you know, my brothers don't sing, so singing with Tim and Molly is probably the closest thing to family harmony I'll ever have. And I thought it was great that they said yes and that they came in and did this song about where we're all from.
What other songs, I don't know, were worth mentioning? They're all good. They're all sort of, if I remember reading correctly, they're all sort of short story tragedies I read someplace in one of the bios.
Well, it sort of covers everything. Not all of them are tragic. I mean,
No.
Green Rolling Hills is about pining for home, but also about how beautiful it is. And, you know, there's a real, that's part of what's compelling about this story. It's dark and light. And so there's beauty even in the tragedy, but it's a very, very hard way of life. And, you know, there's a lot about these songs that address that and also address this sort of how it gets in your blood. You know, it just sort of becomes part of who you are, and there's sort of a love-hate relationship that goes on sometimes.
This is your first drumless album, I read.
Yes.
How did it feel to do it now without
Oh, it was
drum?
good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got into singing music years ago.
What?
Was sitting around in a circle singing, you know, and it took me years to learn to sing and play with drums. So it was really nice because when you strip things a lot it was nice after years of having a big band to sort of strip it away and let the vocals and the lyric really have more space. And with these songs, that really made sense with all the subject matter that was being covered.
Appalachian style?
Well,
Appalachian music? Or?
Well, yeah, that's, you know, it's the music of Appalachia. It's the music of these people in this place, and a lot of different nuances, but basically it's where the blues met up with Celtic music.
What did you discover about yourself while recording this album? And what did you discover about yourself since you recorded this album? I read there you discovered something about yourself, the way you can sing and the way you can relate to this kind of music. Is that
Well, it was a really different experience making this record. Telling somebody else's story, trying to tell the history, and for me it was about really holding up the history of the place where I'm from and those people and the people that still do this work that contributes so much to our lives.
Oh yeah.
And making that connection. And then there was this whole other layer, which was that I learned how much I didn't know as a singer. I mean, it's been a wonderful, exciting challenge. I didn't know if I could pull this stuff off, and there are still times that I feel like, I'm not sure. I just feel like every time I sing them, I learn more. And I think I sing Black Lung better today than I did when I recorded it. It's just ever evolving.
I read where it says you had to dig deep at times, but on the other hand, the songs were like they're almost effortless to sing.
Well, it's true. It took me 6 months to even think that I could sing Black Lung for another person. But at the same time, some of these songs, I looked at Marty and I was like, this feels almost too easy. And he said, that's because it's in your blood, Kat.
There you go. Yeah, it's almost effortless, like I just say. And this was an idea that you had milling around for years, huh?
Yeah,
I read where you're 19 years old, you started to mill around with these ideas.
I heard this song. I heard "Dark as a Dungeon" when I was 19.
Right.
I was working at the Hall of Fame. There was an old film of Merle Travis singing that tune, and it struck me because it was about mining. And I think over the years I've thought there would be, as I think back now, there's always been this little idea floating through about making a record about West Virginia or a record about the mountains, or it's been floating around for almost as long as I can remember.
Nobody else had thought of that project before? I don't remember. I just remember single songs, but never a whole project like you put together.
No, me neither. And I had no idea. I just, I was kind of talking with someone who said, "What are you thinking about doing next?" And I kind of tossed out 3 or 4 different things I was turning over in my mind, and I said, "I was thinking about doing an album of coal mining songs." And the person I was talking to said, "That's cool." And I was like, "Really?"
Go for it.
And I thought it was really more, I did it more on a personal level to just kind of work through my own process about Sago.
I read also it's on your own record label.
Yes. It seemed to be the best way to do it. We decided on the front end to make the record first. And I had some offers, but it just seemed like the right time to take the leap into doing that. And it's been great. It's been great. It's like, let me ask the record label. What do you think about spending the money to do this? Well, I think it'd be fine.
Let me go take it up with the president.
Yeah, exactly.
The president, let's see, the president. I'm going to change hats.
I am the president.
That's like Andy Griffith went to jail. Let me change hats, in Mayberry. With Justice of the Peace and Sheriff,
Our joke is my dining room table's the conference room.
There you go. That's the office. Welcome to my office,
That's it.
What do you have? What are the goals for Kathy Mattea? What do you have? What do you want to do yet?
I've got a couple of records in my head that I'd like to do. They're not gelled yet. Mostly I want to keep playing. I want to keep enjoying it. I want to keep pushing myself, and I want to keep learning. And I also have to say that a lot of it for me isn't goal-oriented. It's really doing it from the inside out, and I just feel so grateful that there's people that still want to hear me sing.
When you go out on tour on the stage, you sing these songs from the cold. You still have to throw in some of your old Kathy Mattea.
Yeah, those songs live well. And they're the old songs that I have. It's been fun to rearrange them. They live very well.
They live for years.
And they're a nice leavening because the coal material is all so dark and so heavy. And so it's nice to be able to sort of balance that out with something and have people sing along and finally get to segue into a major key for a change, for instance.
18 wheels, Everybody I hear 18 wheels.
After Death and Destruction and digging your own grave for a few songs, it's really nice to sing a song about love.